Guy, how are things?
All good, all good. Because it's been a crazy.
It was a loaded question.
Yeah, I don't know where to start really, but I'm all good.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Why, growing up where you did you choose athletics over all the other sports that I can imagine your friends were playing?
Yeah, for me, actually, it was rugby.
Yeah.
Growing up in Berwick and then in and around the Scottish borders, everyone played rugby. Big brother played rugby. My school was a rugby school. If you weren't playing rugby, you weren't one of the cool kids, really. You had no friends. That was like a big social thing as well. So I played rugby actually up until I was 17 and went through various Scottish pathway programs. Played for the Border Reivers from like under 14s, 15s up to under 17s. And then sort of hit a crossroads. I always ran, and my dad trained with Alan Wells actually when he was younger. So he came from this sprinting background, and he always encouraged us to run, but only to keep fit for the rugby, basically. So everything was just rugby mad, and my whole family. And then to kind of cut a long story short, I had my Scottish under 17 trials on a Saturday in Berwick actually against Kelso, another border team, and all the Scottish Scouts were down. And this was like February time, horrendous weather, snowing, everything. And I played a great game. And then on the Sunday, I didn't tell my coach, Henry, at the time that I played a full game of rugby the day before. We went through to Kelvin Hall to race there at the Scottish Junior Champs for the 400, and I ended up winning the thing. So,
what did you run that day?
I was
that age.
I think maybe 50 seconds or 51 seconds or something. Okay. I was 16, and yeah, so I won this Scottish junior title playing a full game of rugby the day before, and my dad was like, "I think you're going to be pretty good at this."
Yeah.
And then the year after, I carried on playing rugby, so I was kind of turning 17. And we went back up again to open the season for the 800 this time. And I ended up running 151. I don't know the exact point, but it was 151 mid maybe, and broke the Scottish junior record. I didn't even know I broke the Scottish junior record then. I got a phone call that night from my Uncle Andy saying, "Do you know you've just broken the Scottish junior record?" I was like, "No."
I think I know what sport direction to go in.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next sort of 4 or 5 weeks, I broke that record another 4 or 5 times, and then ended up breaking it 9 times in total, going into the next year as well. And after that, I was like, right, I think I'm going to be quite good at this. So I quickly hung up the rugby boots. And
was that a struggle? Did you feel like you were leaving something behind, or was it crystal clear to you that this is what I should be doing?
It kind of half and half. There was a few politics going on, kind of the story of my life, with the SRU and with what I was doing. They were trying to get me in the gym literally 5 times a week to bulk up. I was a pretty skinny lad then, to be honest with you. At that sort of time in my career and in my life, where it was like, we need to start bulking these boys up really if they want to go down this rugby career. And I refused to do it. I told them I was doing it. I did all the body weight stuff, but I never lifted any weights. So they kind of caught wind of that, weren't too happy. And then I was doing a lot of athletics training as well as the rugby training. And then they basically didn't pick me for the Junior Six Nations for the Scotland under-18s, and they were like, we're worried that you aren't going to pursue a career in this, and you're pretty decent with what you're doing in the athletics world. And when they said that, I was like, you know what, that's almost the decision made for me. So I'm going to go for it. And they tried to get me back the year after, but I was like, no, I'm going to try and have a crack at this. And I thought doing athletics, I was like in my head, if I run faster than everyone else, if I run qualifying times, if I do this, then I'll make every team and it'll take the politics out of it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that.
No, as we'll come on to. But back then, maybe it was a little bit more binary.
Yeah.
How did you adjust to? I mean, athletics there are athletics teams. You work with people's relays. Obviously, there's nuance to this, but generally, it's all down to you and your performance versus being on a rugby pitch where everybody's pulling their weight. How did you have to shift your approach to your day-to-day, your routine, your structure mentally to be able to actually tackle that? Because it's a very different approach, isn't it?
Yeah, it was 2 completely different worlds. And when you're young, I think I just embraced everything and I did love it. As the years sort of went by, it does get lonely. And yes, you have a huge team around you, from training partners to coaches, you know, psychologists, everyone, nutritionists, everyone's there if you need them. But when you go out onto the track, it's you every single time. So it's tough. It's a very, very lonely sport. We travel all around the world a lot by ourselves. We'll meet our friends in various countries. You'll meet your agent in various countries, but a lot of the time you're doing the bulk of it by yourself, which is tough. So it was completely different to the stereotypical like rugby banter, you know. So it's just a very, very different world. Don't get me wrong, I've got friends for life and we've had some wild nights out and crazy stories in the athletics world, but it's very, very different.
So as things started to develop, obviously time started to get quicker, it became more and more a part of your life. At what point did you realize this is going to be a career and all other options are off the table? Because it sounded like at the age of 17, 18, you were already pretty set that sport was going to be the direction you pursued. Were there any other options, or were you completely all in?
Most things I do go all in with everything. I kind of feel like I won't, I don't really half-ass anything, to be honest with you. So when I made that decision, I was like, I'm going to go hammer and tongue with it and see what happens. But my coach at the time, and he's probably a big advisor for me now, is a man called Henry Gray, who's looked after me since I was 16. He got in contact with a guy that was called George Gandy, who was the head of athletics at Loughborough, and he was head of British athletics. And he looked after so many athletes, but one of his main athletes was Seb Coe when he was at university in Loughborough. So Henry and George have been friends for years. Henry was at a big coaching conference and he says, I want Guy to come to Loughborough and can you look after him, basically? And Henry came back and was like, you're going to Loughborough. And I was like, what? Who? Like, what? I've never even heard of Loughborough. Yeah, you know, I'm a boy from Berwick. You know, I was like, I couldn't even spell Loughborough, you know? And I was like, okay. So I did a bit of research and I was like, this is a pretty good uni. I need to study hard here. And so I was like, maybe they'll give me a scholarship. I don't know. And so I went to the open day and had a chat with various sort of sports departments and a woman that was in charge of like the scholarships and stuff. And she was like, look, for for these sort of courses, you're going to need, for A levels, you're going to need pretty much 2 A's and a B at A level to get in. And I was like, I can't do that, you know. I didn't want to put the effort in to do that, you know. Yeah. So, and my dad was like, you're bloody doing that, like, get studying. Bearing in mind, I was at an English school, so like I know it's slightly different to the Scottish educational system, but like obviously we do 2 years at sixth form. So our AS levels we did 5 subjects at AS, and then you'd pick three core subjects for your final year, which would get you into uni. Yeah. My sort of 5 subjects, I got 4 U's and an A. So 4 ungradables and 1 A, and my A was in history. And to this day, I'm a massive history nut, fascinated by all ancient history, to the point where I got an Egyptology diploma in 2021 from Oxford College. But so I was like, well, I can't just bank on history to get me into Loughborough. I can maybe get 1 A. But so I spoke to this scholarship woman, and she was like, we'll reduce your grades to 2 B's and a C if you hit these times, basically, if you hit over the 800. So that was the target, really. And I had to resit 2 years in one.
Was the time, did you have the time in the bank, or did you have to work for that as well?
No, I didn't. I was about 2 seconds off the time.
Right. Okay.
To get this sort of scholarship. It wasn't set. It wasn't like, here's the target time. It was like, we need you in and around this area. We need you maybe, you know, top 2 in the country, you know, and then we'll see what happens. So that was sort of my motivation. And then my school were like, Guy, you're going to have to reset all your AS levels and your A levels. Just redo the whole year. And I was like, no way. Yeah. I'm not being that dunce at school. When all my mates are going off to uni and doing what they're doing, and I'm going to stay a year behind. I was like, no way. So I absolutely worked my socks off, and I put it was relentless. Had a lot of, you know, my history teacher was amazing. He would actually come round to my house and give us a good bollocking to make sure we're doing essays on a Sunday afternoon. And the excuse of, I've got training, sir, and stuff, we would have none of it. He literally, very, very old school, made sure we're getting the work done. Got extra like English tuition, and then my 3 sort of A levels were history, English, and economics. And then I just studied myself for the economics, really. And cut a long story short, I got the grades, I got ABC, got enough points to get into uni, and got there and got a scholarship. So
excellent.
Everything sort of panned out, and that was the start of it.
A refined work ethic along the way, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. I can teach everyone what not to do.
How did you land in an environment like that? Because Loughborough, I've heard, if your sport is one that they're prioritising that year, it's a great place to be. If it's not, then it's all a little bit of an illusion in terms of the sporting prowess that it has. If you're not one of the premier sports that's making them money and bringing them use, then actually it's not massively different to any other decent sporting university. But typical ones, rugby, hockey, the ones that come to mind are all important to the uni because it's mass participation, most commercially viable. Athletics, where does it sit in that hierarchy? Did you have a good experience at Loughborough?
Yeah, like athletics is right at the top as well. They've got a stat, I don't know how many years it is now. They've won like Bucks, the British universities, for like, it was like 35 years in a row or something. Wow. Something crazy when I was there. So everything was very sort of athletics driven. I got a lot of support and a lot of help down there. I'm not gonna say I was lucky because I worked hard, but like I never lost the Bucks either. I won 4 Bucks championships. The only one I did lose is when I got made to run a 1500 one year, which I hated. It's
a long way, isn't it? For a 4 and an 800 round, that's it's an ultra.
Yeah, 100%. Every second of it, I hated it. So, but every 800 I did, I won. And yeah, so I was very, very lucky on that front that I got a lot of help and support. Best 4 years of my uni life, to be fair, when I was down there. And then I spent another 2 years after that, and that's what I shouldn't have done, to be fair. Right. Great for uni. When I graduated, I stayed down there thinking I'll be in this high performance environment, and it was never the same. And that's when a lot of problems sort of started with me. I went to the Commonwealth Games in 2014, and this is funny because all my mates we were all graduating, and they were like, "What are you gonna do?" You know, I was like, "I'm gonna get a pro contract. They were like, "Well, what if you don't?" I was like, "I will."
Yeah,
and they were like, "Fucking hell."
Okay, yeah.
So I was 20, 21, yeah. and I was like, I'm gonna make it happen, basically. And I did it. I got to obviously qualified a year in advance for the Commonwealth Games because I hit the criteria beforehand. It was obviously in Glasgow, so Scotland were selecting the team. You could qualify a year before if you hit all the criteria. So thankfully I did that, and I was sort of in a solid position for the whole year training for these games. Went in and I was racing David Rudisha, who was the world record holder, Olympic champion. Nigel Amos was the 4th fastest man in the world, Olympic silver medalist. We had a guy called Fergus from Kenya, who was the fastest man in the world that year. A whole host of others. I think I was ranked maybe 21st on the rankings, and everyone was like, "Oh, let's hope Guy gets out his heat." And I was like, "Nah, stop that." Like, I'm making the final. So, and I said to the papers, I want Rudisha in the first round, and they were like, "Who the hell is this kid?" And the seeding came out for the heats, and I get Rudisha. And I was like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have
Careful what you wish for." Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But qualified out my heat, semi-final, and it's probably the most sort of like strongest memory I have with everything that I've done, purely because like the stakes were so high. There was 50,000 people in Hampden screaming for anyone in a home nation's vest, but let alone a Scottish vest. I'm racing against the world record holder at 8-9 o'clock on a Wednesday night, I think it was. Tons of my friends, family, coaches, mum, dad, everyone's in the crowd, and it was an evening race. And just before we get the shuttle to the track, you have to get your bag checked from management, just to make sure you've not forgotten your spikes or anything. You know, they go through everything.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, these things happen. So we went through all of that, and but before that, I got a shower, and I was sick in the shower with nerves, and I was like, fuck, like, come on, get your shit together, guy. Like, you can do this. And I was warming up, and then the way we came out, you go to a call room basically. So once you're doing your warm up, you get called into a call room about 25 or 30 minutes before you actually race, and it's almost like it's like a chicken pen, and all these, I don't know if you've seen it, but like all the athletes from each heat are in.
Yeah.
It's almost just, you're just looking at each other and you're sizing each other up, and some people are joking around, talking, other people are in the zone, just doing it in their own way. And it's a very, very nerve-wracking experience. I've always loved it, because I see a lot of people that would crack up just with sheer nerves, see people shaking, trying to put the pins on, and with the bibs, name bibs and stuff. So I was in this sort of zone, and I was like, I'm going to do this. And the way it was at Hampden, they brought you out about 5-10 minutes before you got brought onto the track, and it kind of just opened up. You're kind of in this sort of tunnel, and you walked up and up this ramp, and you could hear the noise, and it was just insane. And it was obviously in the evening. For some reason, every morning session, evening session was a sellout, but when the lights go down, there's just something different. And I could hear this noise, and it was crazy. And my heart was just going mental. And it's the one time I've actually felt like a gladiator. Like when you're walking out and you can't really see anything, but you just hear this noise. And I came out, and I was just like, I'm ready to go. Like, and I was just pumping my chest, like arms up in the air. And I had the race of my life. Rhodesia was first. Fergus and Rotates, the fastest man in the world, was second, and I was third. And I hung on for the automatic spot, like, for dear life. And I qualified outright for the final. And to me, that was like one of the best performances and best moments I've ever had. And then, you know, the final, I was 6, ran a PB in the final. And it was just like deafening. And that was like the breakthrough moment for me. I signed with New Balance at the time, straight off the back of that. And that kind of got me into this athletics world that kind of set me up for like the next few years. And that was really the start of my journey. But, you know, and I've done 2 Commonwealth Games since, and world champs, European champs, everything. And it's like nothing will ever top that moment for me, ever.
Peaked too soon.
I peaked at 21, mate. I'm now 32. So
we had Dan Wallace on as well, who was
I know Dan,
obviously part of that. And he was saying something similar. I guess it's a bit different because you don't have the into the stadium effect. You're out of the pen into the pool area, and it's probably easier to see faces in the pool, I'd imagine. But I think for him, he was saying just how much value and power he got from just seeing right there. You can make the face out. Those are the people, home turf, off I go, full send. This is the best experience I'm ever going to have.
100%. And even for my final, like it was eerily quiet when I walked out for some reason. There was a bit of a lull, and someone shouted my name in the crowd, just like, come on, Guy. And it set a chain, because I ran up the back straight, up the home straight, as opposed to around the bend. And someone shouted my name, and then all of a sudden everyone did. And I was like,
what happened physiologically at that point? Did you feel another gear kick in? Did you feel adrenaline spike? Or did you just have a little bit more in you to grit your teeth? Because I guess the thing with these things is, like, you're a trained, conditioned athlete. In theory, external inputs shouldn't have any impact because you're already pushing your top end of what you can do.
Yeah.
But that moment there, what changed? Did you get more from it? Yeah,
I get a huge buzz from it. I've said in the past, I feel like these big crowds like make or break athletes. You either shell up or the opposite happens. And for me, I've always sort of relished that. I've always loved it. The older I've got, I'm actually now struggling with lower key races. I don't feel anything in them. And I'm really struggling with that now. And I don't know if it's because I've just been involved in these sort of big meets for such a long period of time now. And I'm working my way through that. I don't really know what's going to happen. But the bigger meets, I get such a buzz of it. And even if I go in only feeling 80 or 90%, I know I'm gonna raise my game. It's gonna give me something, whether it's adrenaline or something ignites in me to perform. And I've very rarely had a sort of bad performance unless I've been injured. I've very rarely had a bad performance with these big crowds.
I guess the distances you're doing as well. I mean, I can't even trying to compare myself here is insulting to you. So I don't mean it that way. But whenever I've ran a sub 5 minute mile twice, both times at about 205 to 210 pounds body weight. So heavier than it should be. Just to insult you slightly less, I'd say. But lap 3 is the absolute key, because if you ease off even slightly, you're fucked. It's game over.
Yeah.
And I guess it's that 1% you push on or 1% you scale back. That's what makes or breaks it. Where if you can tap into that 1% at the right time with the crowd, that's what, because I can imagine mentally an 800, what goes through your head? Because conditioning wise, does fatigue even build, or are you moving at a point now where essentially you're just trying to hold that pace? When does lactic spike? Is it at the 400 mark and then you need to push on? Or is it just a steady build where you just grit your teeth and you know exactly what's coming? Because I think for me, I'm keen to comprehend how it compares to the slower, but I guess relatively same demand stuff that I've gone through, where I know if I ease back in lap 3 even slightly, because lap 4 is only 400 meters, you can hold on even though it hurts a lot more.
Yeah. But it's a slightly slower pace than
exactly. So for you, how do you structure an 800 in terms of attacking it?
Yeah, so the 800 it's a prolonged sprint. I don't even think it should be classed as a middle distance. It's not. The way we go through 400 now, some of these races you're going through in 49, 50 seconds at 400, which if you were to do that again, you'd break the world record.
Yeah,
basically you'd be running sub 140, which is insane, but you have to set it up like that. So a lot of big races, you're going through 49, 50 seconds, and the 800 now is who can get up to the highest gear as quick as possible and maintain it. So that first 200 is crucial, but it's crucial in terms of you can't just go flat out. You can't go 23 seconds for the first 200, because that's going to come back and haunt you the last 100. You got to find a sweet spot. You got to go 24 mid or 24 high, and then maintain that. Basically, you're going to slow down, but it's going to feel like you're maintaining it. And like you're saying, the third lap on a 1500, for us, it's the back straight. It's between 500 and 600 is crucial for so many ways. It's crucial because that's naturally the slowest 200. That or the last 200, but you feel like you hit the 500 and you know if it's on or not. I do anyway. I think a lot of athletes do. I'm going to have a good race, or this last 200 is going to hurt like hell. So you have to make a conscious effort to make a move up the back straight to maintain the pace, but also to get into position for the last 150.
If you have any doubt in that back straight at all, are you fucked? Is it game?
Yeah, you can, and because it's so, the 800 is like, it's like high speed chess. It's like high speed chess, but you with not with one other player, with 8, 9, 10 other players, other athletes, all try to make the same moves at the same time, all similar caliber, all fighting for the same position. And that is why it can be chaos at times.
Yeah. Because
everyone's trying to do the same thing, and everyone's fighting for certain positions and running at seriously quick speeds.
So if we compare the Commonwealth qualifier and final, that back 200, that back straight, back 100 rather, the confidence and sort of invincibility that you must have felt from the crowd, can you compare that to a race where you didn't quite have that same energy and you felt just a polar opposite in your head on that?
Yeah, definitely. Even last year, I went 144 again last year at London Diamond League, and I knew I was going to run well because I went through 450.7, I think, and I felt like I was jogging, and I was moving so well up the back straight, getting into a great position and not feeling any fatigue at all. So I knew the last 200 was going to be tough, but I knew I was going to hold on. Whereas there's been other races where I've sometimes not even made it to 500, and I'm like, nah, this is I'm out. Yeah. I'm out. I'm tapping out here. I'm gonna struggle around 146. It's So yeah, there has been a few races like that, and there's also been races where I've went too hard up the back straight. I did it this year in a place called Funstadt in Germany. We were attacking a really quick time and went through 400 a bit too fast, like 50.1 I think, and then we kicked on. We should have just maintained that pace, but the pacemaker pulled out, and I was at the front, and I made a conscious effort to hit it hard between 4 and 6, and I was just the last 40 meters was I felt like Dan swimming probably. I honestly felt like I was swimming the last 50 meters, and I lost all my time. You know, you're at a 143 pace for 750 meters, and then it just goes.
And that's where your mechanics just fall apart.
Everything just falls apart. You feel like the lactics, everything. Your stride length cuts. Is a horrible way to go. And it just hits you like that. And the 400 is the same. They have this classic thing saying the lactic sniper, you know, and you can look world class, and then boom, like you just shot, and that's it. And there's no coming back from that. You're done. And there's nothing worse than when you're in that position and you feel other people on your shoulder.
Yeah.
And they feel you dying, and you know they're coming, and you're
yeah.
And I've been that person coming through, and it's a great feeling when you sense someone dying and you can see it from behind, you can see it in the stride length, and it's like, I've got you, and it's demoralizing.
Yeah, it's so tactical. The margins are so small as well. I think watching it on TV or in person, it just looks like everybody's running as hard as they can for 800 meters, and that's kind of long and short of it. But
yeah, literally.
if you're thinking 50.1. I'm sending it 50.7. I'm cruising.
Exactly.
The margins there are that's incomprehensible to me, let alone somebody that might not run or whatever it might be. It's crazy that's the level of detail that we've got to go at. Because Jamie, for example, whenever we've done mile training, whenever we've done 800s, anything like that, he always has a lot more in the tank towards the end, whereas I always have nothing. In the end, whether it's pacing or whether it's actually just physiological. I mean, I've got short legs and I don't lift my knees very much. You'd probably laugh at me running, but it's just a case of the efficiency and sort of the strengths and weaknesses that you have, and therefore how do you utilize them in your race? The margins are so small. It's mind blowing to me. So,
but all athletes are different as well. Fergus, like there'll be different ways to approach the 800. That's what's like fascinating about it. Like I come from a more speed orientated background, but I do have a very good engine as well in terms of like probably running a decent mile time and stuff.
What's the furthest you've ever ran in one go?
12 mile.
12 miles?
Yeah.
That's mad. Professional runner. Never done a half marathon.
Never. I call that a half marathon. I've got a 12 mile. Sunday long run, but Sunday long run's 12 miles.
There's people listening to this being like, wow, I'm a better runner than Guy, in the same way that I lifted the Dinny Stones before Tom Stoltman. So
really?
Like, well,
world's strongest man, eh?
Yeah, that's it. So Commonwealths, after that, New Balance signed, pro contract, that's the job. What does being a pro athlete in an athletic setting look like? Because I don't think people I mean, even I don't really understand. Sport to sport is very different. If you're a pro in a rugby club, you've got the support system, you've got this, you've got that. Whereas in pro athletics, generally, these are the sports, well, golf, I can imagine, is quite similar, where you are absorbed by a brand, and then each athlete's experience with that brand and how they're supported is very, very different. I think I'm right in saying.
Yeah.
So what did it look like for you becoming a pro with New Balance versus before? Did your life become a lot easier? You could focus on training. The finances were all looked after. They're not the most lucrative contracts in the world, I don't think, to start with, but they allow you to train, which means that you can then climb the ladder. So what did that round one of pro contract life look like?
The contract wasn't like too good. It enabled me to like train full time, which is all of that's the opportunity I wanted. What we got built into our contracts and what I have now with Puma as well is your bonuses in the bonus contract and rollovers, basically. So any bonus you hit gets rolled over, and that will get put onto your base salary for the next year. So that's very, very crucial. A lot of contracts, as far as I'm aware, I know certain athletes do not have that contract. I've always had that put into mine, which enables you to, I'm not saying sign a lower contract, but like you can almost back yourself. You can take something, you can maybe take a lower contract, but back yourself. Like, I know I'm going to hit these performance bonuses. I know I'm going to run these times, and you in effect get paid twice. You'll get paid your bonus, and then for the year after, the base will also be.
And you retain that.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, wow.
So I think that's very crucial. Obviously, if you win medals and stuff, World Olympic medals, it's it really is life changing. You know, not just financially, but for obvious reasons.
Yeah. But a lot of that still is what you do with it next, not just your job done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to you got to be smart. You know, you have to have other ththings going on in your life, because it's not a sport where you can, unless you're Usain Bolt, who was pulling in, I think he pulled in like 35 mil in 2016, his Olympic year in 2016. His Puma contract alone was like 10, 11 million a year base salary. But he deserves every penny, you know?
Yeah.
Most people will not be able to retire and do nothing for the rest of their life. Not that you want to do that anyway, but it doesn't give you that sort of, it is getting more lucrative now, because I think a lot of athletes are speaking up, and we work so hard. And I'm not saying we should be on footballers' salaries, because it's just how the sport's marketed, but there is those comparisons drawn. So I think brands and athletes are standing a bit stronger now, and brands are starting to realize, like, we can't just offer shit contracts, because it's not right. And that is changing. I've always been very lucky, because I've had a few other like private sponsors as well, and I've always went out of my way to source other sponsorship. Puma was great for me, because I was able to get a deal with a company called Cost Plus, who have looked after me for years. But the guy called Joe Perryman, who I've got a very close relationship with, we're able to get his logo on my kit as well. So that things like that, other brands won't do that. Puma allowed it, which was big. Anyway, so like I forgot the question was, Fergus. Like,
how did pro contract number one? How did that essentially change things? But just you probably answered part one, which was, what does it look like in terms of structuring it for an athlete? Yeah, and I guess the key for you as well is that you can't actually train that much. Yeah, because 15/400s, it's a big fucking session for anyone. But you're going to be done with, include a warm up, you'll be in and out of the track 2 hours, unless you're fucking around at the end saying hello to the local kids and everything. Yeah. So you can't then go and do another one of those in the evening, because you'll snap. It's
but we'll train in the evening though.
Yeah,
but we'll run in the evening. So if we've got a session like 15/400s in the morning, you might do some people might do a gym session after it as well. Okay. So it would be broken up like that. So you do your main like bulk of the session in the morning, then maybe some gym work, S&C or rehabs, which isn't too, the gym work is a bit harder, but if you've got say rehab and stuff, that is what people call the 1%ers, you know. That's boring. That stuff so boring. But that needs to be done as well. So that can take, so let's say 3 hours in the morning. Then you'll go home, you'll eat, you'll nap, you'll recover, and then you get up, and then I probably train again about 6 o'clock in the evening, but it's more just like, it'll be recovery runs. For 4 miles.
You can't fill all your time just training. No, I think is the key, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But it's like the older I've got, the more things I've done, but the more I've sort of prioritized like my sleep and the nap and stuff like that. Like I read a book, I think it was Dr. Walker, Why We Sleep. Yeah. And that was just blew my mind. Yeah. Because my time at uni and stuff, and even the years after, I was able to train like a professional athlete, but I wasn't recovering like a professional athlete. And it was a joke.
This is a fun game to play. So what does recovery for a professional athlete look like?
It's the correct nutrition, your diet, you know, refueling quickly that way, and sleep where it's ice baths, massage, physio, and your sleep as well. So it's all of that, rehab, you know, it's doing all those small things in between that, you know, other people, I had friends that were working full-time as well as training, and they weren't able to do all the small things that I was able to do. And then if I got lazy, I was like, oh, come on, like, you know, and I was guilty of that. And I think that probably held me back in the first few years.
There's a real culture these days, especially in my world, I guess, with more self-driven recreational day-to-day athletes, is focusing on the grain of sand at the top of the pyramid. Rather than the sleep and the nutrition and the training, the ice baths, the recovery, all those little gimmicky things that you have a complete right to use at the top end, because you're nailing every component. A lot of people do it in the reverse order, which is becoming more and more popular, where they're not sleeping enough, they're not eating correctly, and they think, I'm going to ice bath this overtraining away. That's not how that works.
And it's the timing as well, isn't it? It's when you do it is what's crucial. And you know, even the napping and stuff, like you say to people like, oh, what are you going to do? I'm going to go for a nap. And they're like, some life.
Yeah.
Like, but you don't realize what it's doing, like scientifically, like to the body, like the health benefits and the recovery process you're in is crucial.
Yeah. So Commonwealth, was it 144.6 you ran in the Commonwealth?
No, sorry, I ran in 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran, sorry, I wish I ran that at that year, at that age. I ran 146.4 or 146.5.
Okay.
But I ran
all-time PB is 144.6.
Yeah, 144.7. Yeah.
And that was last year Diamond League?
No, last year I ran 144.8. 2018 it goes back to 144.73 and I ran 8-0.
It's interesting that I know my 800 PB by the minute and the second, not the minute, the second, and the millisecond. It's just it's quite wild. The margin is shocking. So I think the challenge that is becoming more and more present to me from different corners of the internet and just narratives is the Olympics is coming up and there's a lot of things going on that don't make sense to me. And I guess my question is, what's going on? Because you've been vocal the whole way through your career about where you disagree with UK athletics, British athletics, which I know you've vocally said you think has come back to bite you when it comes to selection on certain things. But I guess all of that vocalization comes from passion, pride, and a desire to be the best British athlete that you can. But recently I've seen a lot of things about selection, a lot of criteria being hit or being adjusted. That means that certain people aren't doing certain things, even though they've done all that they needed to do. And I don't really understand what's happening when it comes to British athletes that, from what I can tell, on paper have ticked the boxes and deserve to be there, that aren't there. So, open-ended question, what's going on?
How much time do we have? I need to extend my parking outside. Right. So a few years ago, World Athletics brought in a new world ranking system. This was in 2019, 2020. And it was the same sort of format as tennis and golf, right? What they wanted to do is issue an invite per se. They wanted 50% of athletes to qualify via a world ranking and 50% via a times.
Okay.
So there was the world ranking. You can now qualify technically 3 ways, but the main 2 ways are qualifying time and world ranking. That is the 2 ways you can qualify for any championship. Obviously, your world rank, you get a better world ranking from running, obviously, times or distances, like all the events.
So I guess it gives you the chance to cumulatively earn your place or have a blinder and earn your place.
Exactly.
Okay.
But what they've done is World Athletics have made the standards so hard. So, for example, 2016 Rio Olympics, the 800 qualifying time was 146.00. Okay. 2021 Tokyo was 145.2 or 145.3. Paris 144.70. Okay, it's a huge jump. Like, it's massive. And to run 144s, you need big races, right? So you need not diamond leagues, but obviously they would help. But like tour meets, there's gold, silver, bronze meets. You need certain races. You need decent weather. You need good competition. It's a 146 you can do easily at lower meets. You can set things up and run it. 144.7 is a different ball game. So they've done that deliberately so the athletes can use their world ranking system. So they can issue invites to federations to say, you've got, X amount of athletes qualified for the 800, shot put, long jump, all that sort of stuff,
And this is across everything.
Across everything.
So the 144.7 is the 800
That's just
example.
800.
Yeah. But every
event,
every athletics event has that system. Cool. Okay.
Exactly. So that's what they've done. So now the standards have gone through the roof, and not every athlete can hit those standards because not saying there's very few, but it's a hell of a lot harder. But you've now got the world ranking system where that comes into play. That world ranking, so most athletes now are qualifying through world rankings. A classic example is Jakob Ingebrigtsen didn't have the qualifying time for the 5K for the Olympics because he's not really ran any. He's qualified through world ranking. He's going to the Olympics for the 5K through his world ranking system, through the world ranking invite, not the time. Obviously, he will easily run the time. probably win that 5K easily. However, that's, you know, Norway I've taken Jakob off his 5K time. British athletics are using this for a multitude of reasons to not select athletes. They're picking and choosing who they've now got this power in their hands. If you don't hit the automatic qualifying time, which for the 800 was 1:44.7, if you don't qualify outright, it's in our hands to select you or not, basically. So they are using this to not select athletes. Now you've got someone called Phil Norman, who is a 3K steeplechaser, who has been left out, I think, of seven previous teams, 7 championships over, you know, the last few years. He ran the quickest time at the British Championships just recently, the quickest time in the UK since like 1990.
Is he based in Devon?
Yeah, he's down south. I'm not sure.
So I think I think I saw a big post from him. Yeah. So I think that's what really triggered me to say, Guy, what's going on?
Get out higher than Guy. So he ran and he missed the qualifying time by like 0.15 seconds, like 0.15. And that's over the steeplechase as well. He ran a championship record in Manchester, which is a shit track. Like it's not a quick track, you know. He did what he did by himself, and again qualified outright through the world ranking system. They're not taking him basically for a 1/10 of a second.
Are they taking somebody else?
No, they're not taking anyone else, but they've done that in the past. What they did to me in March for the World Indoors, I was in this situation. There was like 5 or 6 of us that qualified through world ranking, and I was the only one they left out. They picked everyone else and didn't pick me. I know that's slightly different, but this year, obviously I caused a bit of a stir back in March, and they've made their criteria a bit more watertight. But now what they've done is they've just not selected anyone off these world ranking sort of qualification process. And
even though it's mandated by their parent organization that this is how it should operate.
Yeah, they think they're bigger and better than World Athletics, and it's making a mockery of the whole world ranking system because a lot of federations now are using this as an excuse not to send athletes. You know,
why? What's the merit to not sending them? Does it cost them X amount per athlete? Is it risk? I don't really. I
mean, it's probably conjecture. They'll say it's, for me, it's conjecture. What I'm going to say will be conjecture, but it isn't. I know it's pretty. Can't say it's facts, but I know this is. It is financial, and also it's to do with their stats. Like UK Sport will say to them, "We want you to get 8 medals at the Olympics, and we want so many finalists." So if they dilute the team and only pick, you know, their elite of the elite, the ones they have on funding, they've got a higher chance of having a better looking spreadsheet, having a better looking pie chart. They can then go to UK Sport and be like, out of the 70% of the people that were on funding, you know, made the final, this amount got, you know, won medals, and we look great. But they've just diluted the entire team, and that is like so short-sighted, because that is not sustainable at all.
And it closes off the pathway to getting people funded.
Exactly. So they're literally saving their asses now. They're in a huge financial problem. They're in a huge financial, not even dilemma. Like it's go on company's house, like what I've done, because I'm petty as hell. You know, it's they're broke. They're so broke. Making huge financial losses every year. Like 2-3 million last year, 3.7 this year. It's projected to make over 4 million loss next year. They've taken a huge advance, a cash advance from Nike, just to save them and to revive them. They've signed the worst deal in history with the BBC, with the TV. The TV deal is not what it was. You know, they're just selling themselves short, and they're just doing it to save face now. Like it's a bit of a joke, really.
Yeah, which could downstream bury kids getting into 800s and 400s. It's not just about the here and now and Paris Olympics. It's about
10, 15, 20 years down the line. And look at the America. Like, what's the one country that's top of the medal table every championship? America.
Yes.
Right. Every year, they fill their teams. they fill the teams with, if you're top 3 at the trials, which is another thing that I feel like should be done in the UK, it should be top 3, automatically go. That takes the politics out of it. At the minute, it's just top 2 with the time or distance with the criteria get automatic selection, and the third spot is discretionary, so they can pick who they want. If you make it top 3, that takes out all politics. And the American system, they if you've got the time or you qualify for a world ranking, if you're in the top 3, you go. They fill teams, and you've got people that might have been 3rd at their trials end up becoming Olympic and world champions, or at least medalists. You know, they send a massive team and they get the best results. That's the UK. We're a nation that is very strong in the athletics world. We should do that, and it maximizes like not just like opportunities, but like, you know, you're looking, if you want to have any sort of vision, you know, Steve Cram was taken to the Olympics at 19. He don't know what year. Like, I think it was 1980, Moscow. He was in the final. 4 years later, he was an Olympic silver medalist. You need that experience. Yeah. Like, it's crucial for any athlete. And it's not just, and you can't replicate anything in training. That is what it's like being in you know, an environment like that on the big stage, you know, and you need to bleed in athletes. You need to develop them. Yeah. And they're going to, as you said, they're going to miss out. There's going to come a point where 5-10 years down the line, there's going to be no athletes coming through. And it's demoralizing for the younger ones. They're thinking, well, I'm not going to do this. This might happen to me.
That's the thing is the future of a sport is to be considered with all these things, massively so. So from your perspective, future of athletics, future of kids getting into it, pathways, ranking systems, being an athlete in the sport, long career, what changes would you propose? What do you see needs addressed? What do you think is actually going to, 1, improve current results, but 2, more importantly, sustain results over a long period of time, like we said, so that you can still get kids coming through, and we're not just basically lighting the ship on fire and watching it sink currently?
Yeah. I think, I guess a few things. With the world ranking system, I feel like the athlete earns that sort of invitation, per se, you know, to qualify. But it has to get approved by the federation. So we either bypass that, it comes straight to the athlete, and they can accept or decline it. You know, why it goes to the federation first, and it gets accepted or declined from them on your behalf. I got declined in 2016, and they didn't even tell me. I qualified for the World Indoors in 2016, and I got an email that night saying you've qualified for the World Championships in Portland and Oregon, but we've declined it on your behalf. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, you know, I'm like, why? You know, it doesn't make sense.
What was the rationale given there?
There wasn't any. They just like, they say things like, oh, we don't think you'll make finals, or we don't think you'll medal, and there's grey area.
That's the whole fucking point of putting people in a competitive environment, is to see what happens.
Exactly. So I say to them like, well, yeah, I'm not going to get a medal, I'm not going to make a final watching from home, you idiots, you know? Yeah. Like, it's as simple as that. And I said, if you're going to have that mindset, they're obsessed with this medal sort of mentality, and I understand it to a degree, but if that's the case, then why don't we just scrap? That's it's part of sport, the whole journey through the if you know the Euros have been on, why don't we just skip straight to Spain, England in the final then? Yeah, let's just have a final.
It probably wouldn't have been England in the final.
Yeah, that's true. Let's say Spain, France then. Yeah, England would jammy, but you know, let's just put the 2 best teams at the top. Or an athletics world, let's just, for the 800 world final, let's just put the top 8 in the world and let them race. And that's it. Let's scrap everything else. Let's scrap the qualifying rounds. Let's scrap the trials. Let's scrap semi-finals. Let's just go straight to the final, and let's do that. And that will destroy the sport, because that is boring. That is not sport. No one wants to see that. People want to see journeys. They moan relentlessly. They say, oh, we need to do more to develop the sport. We need to rebranding. We need to market it right. Blah blah blah. Netflix, we've got this, and you know, and it's just like, come on, like you
need personalities, like scrapping with each other.
Exactly. Storytelling, and one of the great things about the 800 and 1500 and is the tactics involved. It's like it's anyone's game. You know, it doesn't matter if you're the fastest guy in the world, or you're a world record holder. You can get tripped up, you can fall over, you can tactically get it all wrong and get out kicked. You know, it's just, that's the nature of it, and that's what sport is all about. That's what makes it exciting, you know. And they're taking that away just by saying, "Oh, we don't think you'll medal." It's like, but people, you know, these people that are making these decisions, are like they've never even ran. Like people are making decisions in the 800. Like, I've never even ran the 800 before. These coaches, you know, it's the wrong people in the wrong positions, making the wrong decisions, and not realizing that it's like athletes like pouring their heart and soul into this. You know, a lot of people. I've been in a very I'm very fortunate to be in the position I've been in terms I've been someone that's has had contracts and had various sponsorships and been looked after very, very well. I've built my whole team up myself, but I've done it my own way. But I've been very, very lucky. Other athletes haven't been in the position that I've been in, and they're getting their dreams completely destroyed as well from people that have got no right to do that and have got no understanding for any sort of athlete well-being or anything, let alone the financial sort of situation as well. You know, we if you don't perform in the summer or anything, we're losing money every year because you're pumping everything in. You're making an investment from physio to training camps to everything, and you do it because you're like, it's fine, it'll come good. I'll get this medal, or I'll hit this standard, or I'll run this time, and I'll make some money on the bonuses, and I'll do this. It's an investment, and that gets taken away from you. And these coaches, these people, these blazers, I like to call them, do not understand that.
Great example currently in your world, Josh Kerr and Ingebrigtsen.
Yeah.
Look at the TikTok beef. Yeah. They're not involved. Other people are editing it. Other people are doing it, but people are interested in what are they doing. Yeah. Yeah, they're the two best in the world scrapping against each other.
Yeah.
So within the context you just described, that it's Messi and Ronaldo arguing over who's the best.
Yeah.
But they haven't, since their first competition, that hasn't happened. That's taken years of experience, racing, marketing understanding, and people in the background to develop them into people that can be edited by people on the other side of the world to be marketed on TikTok, and therefore people care. How did we get here? Weird. But I think that the crux of it is the loss is getting bigger and bigger every year with this tactic.
Yeah.
It's not working.
It's not working at all.
And I think it's bottlenecking athletes. So I'm assuming, just for clarity on one thing, when you refer to athletes on funding, I'm assuming most athletes that aren't on funding are the ones that are either self-funded, still working full-time, or have contracts that are keeping them ticking over.
Yeah.
Ones that are on funding, have all those things, probably not working full-time, won't be allowed to work full-time, I'm assuming, actually.
Yeah.
But they get lottery funding, or they get directly paid by British Athletics. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And in terms of the pool in the 800, let's say, to the best of your knowledge, what percentage of competitive 800 runners at the top are on funding versus not on funding? In terms of anyone that's actually...
Yeah, I mean, you usually pick like 3 per event, really, for the funding.
Yeah, out of what, a pool of 10, 12?
Yeah. I mean, it just depends on how well everyone's doing, I guess, in the country at the time. But that's all performance related. Well, a bit performance related, but also who you know as well.
So you can essentially be representing an organisation salaried or for free, based on the decisions and where they channel the funding.
Yeah. We have to sign things every year. Every time we make a team, we almost have to sign. You have to sign your image rights away. You have to sign various things away to basically compete for your country and for your federation, and stuff that you if you read the small print, you're like, that's not right. If you don't sign it, they won't pick you. So it's like, what do? You know, you want to stand up and be a martyr, or do you want to represent your country and just think, you know what, this is bullshit, but I'm going to go and race. I'm going to go compete, you know?
Yeah. And
so it's tough.
You've been tolerating this for years now. When were you first outspoken? Was it 2016? When you didn't get picked for Portland?
No, I didn't really speak too much in 2016. I was actually, so when I stayed at Loughborough for 2 years after, I worked, it's the first time ever I worked with British Athletics for about 18 months. And I thought, right, this is it. I did it for a few reasons, but I was like, I'm going to play the game right here. I'll work with a British athletics coach and I'll perform, whatever it may be. I know the nepotism that is involved. I was rather a guy that was technically my coach, was my coach, picks the guys that go on funding, you know? So I'm gonna stay here. And that was obviously one of the reasons I stayed there as well. The whole thing was a disaster. Like I didn't even break 147. Like when I stayed there. This was going into the Olympics.
So that coach is dictating your sessions, your reps, your timings, everything. They just tell you what to do, and you need to hit the standard.
Yeah. But obviously, I was like, I'm going to work with the system. I'm going to see, and I had everyone. From physiologists to nutritionists, psychologists, S&C coaches, with assistant coaches. I remember I was standing on the start line at one point, and there was about 5 different guys like almost telling me what to do. And I was on the start line, like all different tactics and everything. I thought, what the fuck am I doing here? I was like, my head is mush. I was like, who do I listen to? You know, bearing in mind, I've got my dad back home. I've got Henry, who's been my long-term coach for so many years, and he's back home as well. They're telling me things, probably the right advice, but I'm 4 or 5 hours away down in Loughborough working with the whole system. And I was like, this is a joke. And they were obsessed with gym stuff, obsessed with lifting heavy weights. And I'm someone that can naturally like bulk up probably not like you, Fergus, but I can bulk up to a degree very, very easily. I can gain and lose weight really easily. I'd been in the gym like 4 times a week, doing a lot of stuff. And that's when all the problems started with injuries. I had lower back problems, I had hamstring problems, I had problems with my quad, I had problems with my hip flexors. And then going into the Olympic trials in 2016, I had a hamstring tear, like 1 week out. I tore the top of my hamstring, and I then got through my heat, and I couldn't run in the final, and ended up I had a torn gracilis, which was in a small muscle in my adductor basically, and that was me done. And I left Loughborough, moved back home, and started working with Henry again in 2017. And within 9 months, I went from 146.6 to 145.1 at the end of that year. I was British champion, and I was a world semi-finalist. And I was number 1 in the UK, and I hit all the criteria to be on funding. And they said they didn't see enough. They hadn't seen enough. They wanted to see more. And it was the guy I left who would make these decisions. So I was like, this is bullshit. Like, you know?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it logically, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But as you've said,
it's crazy. And then the same happened. And the year after, I went 144, and same thing. I'm not seen enough. I'm like, what more do you want to see? Making teams again, British champion again.
What's the world record?
Oh, 140.9 with Rhodesia. It's
good
Lord.
Lord.
Wow. Mate, it's insane. And watch that race. It's the greatest race ever.
When was that?
2012 Olympic final.
I'm going to watch that later.
Oh, mate, it's unbelievable. They're Rhodesia.
I don't remember that.
Raced him 7 times, mate. He kicked my ass every time. The only time I did beat him.
Where's he from? Kenya?
Kenya, yeah.
Wow.
Only time I did beat him was we ran a 600 in a Strava, and he pulled out injured the first 100. And on the head-to-heads, it says 7-1.
There you go.
But I can't claim that. No. But yeah, honestly, one of the greatest athletes ever.
Has anyone come close? How many 141s, 142s are there?
Believe it or not, wasn't many until just recently. There's a lot of Algerians and stuff running it now. Just the last sort of 2 weeks, there's been some guys running 141s again, and it's like getting
outdoors.
Just in Monaco and in France, all of a sudden everyone's just went from 143s, mids, 144s to 141s, 142s, which is a bit sus, to be honest with you, but. A couple of weeks out from the Olympics, and it's a bit crazy. I know there is the spikes make a big difference now as well. That's a whole different topic. That is, I'd love to see what Rhodesia would have done in super spikes. It would have been.
Do you think it's a good thing that the technology exists, or would you rather it was kept pure?
No, I think it is a good thing. Like, come on, we're in the 21st century, It's like things are developing all the time. It's like Formula 1 race cars. Look at those guys. Like, different parts stuff. I'm not saying
they're getting quieter though, so I think we should go back to the old ways.
Yeah. So it's only natural. Like, there's a time where there would be cinder tracks.
Yeah.
My dad would always talk about running on cinder tracks. Yeah, exactly.
What he ran on.
Yeah,
it was like a gravel track, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it's nuts. So
for anyone listening, there's a picture of Roger Barrister behind my head, and that's what we're referring to there.
What an icon. So yeah, I mean the technology, that's just like part and parcel, isn't it? So I think it's there is limits on it now. World Athletics have limits with various stack heights, and I think it makes a big difference with the further up in distance you go, the bigger the benefit. I think that's why you see so many the marathon, like some of the times are actually ridiculous, to be honest with you. And it's like, it's a bit
it's energy return. When you actually do the efficiency maths on it over time, it just makes sense. Like when you actually look at this many strides per minute over this distance with this time, if you increase this and increase this, it will equal this. You're like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. Whereas, I mean, how many strides, you probably know the answer, how many strides will go into an 800?
Right. Like, we have biomechanics and stuff that watch me, and I'm just like, well, I'm not too, I went, when I was at Loughborough, we went massive through like the science stuff, physiology, VO2 max testing. I was a guinea pig in 2015, 2016, and always getting injured. And when I left, I was like, I've not done one VO2 max test since 2016, and I'm just like,
felt no need.
Yeah, I'm just like, I was so put off by it and let down by the whole system, and I was just like, physiology, I was like, why can't we just repeat sessions? In my head, I was like, every 3-4 weeks, if we repeat the same session and see an improvement, and I'll tell you if it, say it's, I don't know, say it's 10 200s, and I did them in 25.5 off 2 minutes recovery, and then 4 weeks later we do them and I go 25.2, the average 25.2 off 2 minutes recovery. Well, I'm getting fitter, I'm getting faster, and it feels easier. And then let's do them again in 4 weeks closer to a race, and I'm going 24 points. I'm like, well, what physiology do I need? That was the route I would rather go down. I get it, I completely understand it. I think for marathon and longer distances it's crucial, but for 800, I don't think it's too important.
Physiologically, things happen too quickly for any real mechanisms to start really overlaying one another, don't they? I mean, it's not as simple as that, but with the mechanisms at play over at marathon distance at a top end, very, very different.
Yeah.
It's an interesting discussion, because I think commercially, sport needs to get faster and faster, and goals need to be crazier and crazier. Rugby players need to be bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
But there must be a ceiling on all these things, because if you look at Roger Bannister versus mile times now, I mean, what 3:44s are we?
Oh yeah, the world record for something like that. I mean, Jakob's done like he's close to the world record. There's a lot of guys going like 3:45s. I think Josh did 3:45.
That's just
or
insane.
3:47 or something. No, 3:45. I think he did. Him and Jakob did that in Eugene in May.
Yeah,
like it's crazy. I mean, that's
good
1,500 meter times for certain people, Like,
yeah, that's good minute per K times.
Yeah,
for a lot of people. Yeah,
it's the game has changed. And it's natural. That should happen. If not, we're stuck in the dark ages. Like,
yeah. What do you want your future to look like in the sport? Because I know you're on a little bit of a hiatus at the moment you're still training, I assume, but you're not.
I mean, I've taken a couple of weeks off. Yeah, for sure. I'll probably will get. When I was younger, I would love my break. I would take 3-4 weeks off. I would just get drunk and I would eat as much food as I can, and didn't want to get back to training. The older I've got, I get to about 10 days in, 2 weeks in, and I'm like, I'm bored.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take I'm taking some good time out, but I probably will just run. I'm not going to do any sessions. I'll just go for runs when I feel like it. Might do more than 12 miles. So, but look, I feel like there's tons of changes that need to be made. I don't even know where to start. I think like Michael Johnson's brought his pro league. He's doing his Grand Slam thing. He's making it like tennis. I don't know if you've seen that online.
Yeah.
I think that's.
Look at Live Golf. Like the direction all these things are going, it needs like the 100.
Yeah,
people want entertainment.
Yeah,
I mean, look at USA versus UK. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Why is NFL the most successful commercially sport in the world, aside from WWE, which I had a discussion with somebody on. Dr. Fergus Connolly. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
So I asked him what's the most successful sport in his eyes. He said WWE, because of the commerciality of it.
That's fair.
Yeah, but the NFL versus...
Is that sport, or I guess it is, isn't it?
Well,
it is. Yeah, it must.
This is it. But then you as a rugby fan, you watch an NFL game, you're like, is this a sport?
Ah, that's true.
You're like, this is an advert. But the adverts are what make the Dallas Cowboys worth, I think, over $1 billion. And you're like, well,
that says it all, doesn't it?
and then Prem Rugby is struggling to survive. British people don't like the entertainment nearly as much. But the 100 got people that don't care about cricket involved. Live Golf got pools of money involved. Whatever your ethics and morals and purity of the sport are, if people aren't continuing to invest in the sport in the way that they did, then the survival of the sport is at risk. And that doesn't just apply to athletics, rugby, all these things. We need to cast a wider net because things are getting more expensive, which means you need more commercial input.
Yeah.
So for the sport to continue to develop and grow, things need to change, which is that sad reality. I don't want rugby to be anything like the NFL, but I also don't want more Prem Rugby teams to go out of business and more lads to end up without jobs and local clubs where kids are becoming every weekend to no longer have access to that. That's a much shitter outcome, in my opinion. So how is that going to work with Johnson's approach?
Well, I think he said, like, he made it, I think it was Johnson that said, like, people only care about athletics like every 4 years when the Olympics is on. And it's like, it's a bit disrespectful, but it's true, like, because so much goes on. The whole circuit, there's championships every year. Next year alone, there is the European indoors, the world indoors, and the world outdoors. We've got 2 world championships and the European championships. It's stacked every year. You know, we've got so many races going across Europe and the whole world, and in Asia and America. That happens all the time, but it's just like, people don't know about it. Obviously, everyone knows about the Olympics. He's trying to create, like, obviously there's Grand Slam, like golf and tennis 4 times a year, bringing, external eyes to the sport. It is amazing. And yes, I've said I've hated it and stuff like that, but it's like, I do love it. I go through, and a lot of people will probably, I think, can resonate with the stuff I've said. That, I think that's crucial. Even he is getting stick because there's no field events, but I was like, all right, just let him try and get this off the ground first.
Yeah.
You know,
baby steps.
It's like, that's huge. You've got other people. You've got I think it's the owner of Reddit.
Okay. Probably got lots of money to burn.
Yep. His wife is a big athletics fan.
Cool.
They've set up a female only meet, a big meet in America in September.
Brilliant.
With great prize money. You've got World Athletics now come 2026. I've got it's like the World Athletics Championships or something, but like, it's not called some, I don't even know what it is. I see so much stuff now. It's something like that, but they're going to have a world champs like every year.
Okay.
Basically in 2026 with good prize money. Top 8 in the world race each other. That's at the end of, that's how the season will finish in September. So that's good. Obviously, you might have seen things on Netflix and stuff now. I know there's a Sprint season 2 coming as well. So that's good. I hope that branches out. So there's stuff there. It's just how we sort of keep pushing it and keep marketing it. You know, World Athletics do great jobs, but like, politically, the federations need to get their heads clattered together. They do. Because like, it's not just our federation, it's getting across the board now, and there's a lot of countries going down this route, and I feel like World Athletics need to step up and do something and put the foot down. They've created these rules, and they need to step in now and change it from that point, because a lot of people are just like thinking, oh well, they see so much negative stuff, and even the press, to be honest with you. Why is it then every time someone in athletics, like someone could win a world championship, and the person that fails a drug test is the one that gets all the headlines? You know, why is this doper getting all the headlines and the medalist isn't getting as much attention? Like and the press have got a point. You know, they've got a part to play in that as well. Yeah. You know, so it's things like that.
Post-COVID sensationalism is out of control, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's just like, it's things like that. It is a great sport. You know. There's various things in play now. I guess we're gonna have to wait and see how it all sort of comes to fruition. Maybe it's only a matter of time before the Saudis get involved as well, which would be nice. I'm gonna hang in for a few more years if the Saudis take over. So,
what if you couldn't run a fast 800 after right now ever again? Are you happy with how your career's gone within the circumstances, or are there still things on the table?
Yeah, there's still things on the table. Like I've obviously the Olympics. I mean, I think looking back, like 2016 should have been a very easy Olympics for me to make. If the things didn't go on, I don't really live my life with regrets.
Was that the 2-year period where you stayed on?
Yeah,
right, okay,
yeah.
okay.
And then as soon as I left, I ran 1:45.1, and it's like that would have qualified me easily for the Olympics. And
What was the winning time that year?
the trials or
The trials, yeah.
I think it was like 1:48 or something.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean I know it's
okay.
tactical,
Yeah,
but, or 1:47, but like only two people had the qualifying time then. Obviously those two guys went, and so that's my sort of one regret, like staying in Loughborough an extra year when I should have just came home. But so that hurts, to be fair. Right now, I feel like I'm grieving a bit, to be honest with you. I'm 32 now, and I've done 5 or 6 European champs. I've done 2 or 3 world champs and 3 Commonwealth Games, and I've got like 4 British titles and done all this.
3rd fastest Scottish time ever as well.
Yeah, and I was British captain at 2019 as well. So I have done amazing things when I think of things like that, but like I want to run 1:43. I know I can run 1:43. Obviously I want to be at the Olympics, so that's tough. I still believe I can run 1:43. My career has been full of so many like ups and downs, but I'm still pretty happy with like what I've done. And I think, you know, there's a few younger guys in Henry's group now, and I try and give them as much advice as possible. They're like 16, 17, 18, and I'm like
All training out at Tweed Bank.
Yeah, and around the borders and stuff. So it's like, you know, I'm trying I want to give back as much as I can. You know, I never had anyone come into school to sort of like inspire me. I've just had it's all came from within, and I'm not saying I'm going to inspire them, but like I want to just give them a bit of nurturing and a bit of advice and stuff, and try and help as many people as I can to not make the same mistakes that I did and do things slightly different. You know, I've done it the hard way, and I have got to the very top of my game. Not won a major medal, but like there is still hope for that. I'm going to carry on going, and we've got some time out at the minute, but I'm going to get ready for next year no matter what, and hopefully I can finish it off with something decent, with some fast times. And I seem to be doing things the opposite way around. Like I seem to be running even this year, even though I didn't run the times I want and I've stopped early. It was my most consistent year ever going into the trials. So it was only a matter of time before something good happened. Unfortunately, we've taken this route at the minute, but you know, I'm going to carry that into next year, and I know I'm in a very good place. It's just I need a bit of R&R right now.
You excited about the Olympics as a whole?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, because I'm probably not going to watch it. Like I watch it. A lot of my mates are there, so it's tough.
Yeah,
a few of my training partners are there as well, so I want to support them. I'm not going to be this bitter old man at home like throwing stuff at, you know. I'm not like that. I'm at peace with myself. It's going to be tough. I'm not going to be glued to the TV watching it, but I'll support the guys.
Nothing will ever compare to London 2012, where you could just wander into the room and be, oh, what are we watching today?
Yeah.
Women's slalom kayaking. Great. Okay. Didn't know that was a thing. I'm bought in. Let's go.
It's class though, isn't it? Like those.
That was brilliant. Yeah.
I do like seeing things like that in Commonwealth Games to a degree as well, is because it's multi-sport as well. So like seeing various different sports, but like the Olympics too is obviously different gravy, isn't it? So yeah. No, I will. I'll see what's on, but I know there's like there's like skateboarding and stuff going on. Isn't there?
And there's Japanese 13-year-olds doing back-to-back 1080s and stuff now. It's just wild how far things have come. It's just I mean, we've got a skateboard ramp out there, so
you've been practicing.
We keep a close eye, but we're not quite as compact as 13-year-old Japanese kids.
I'll break my ankle if I did anything like that.
I think it's I'm excited for it, but I don't feel there's been any hype for it.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it?
I felt, yeah. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, 100%.
As an athlete, that's okay.
No, we've actually even said like, I'm not seeing much anywhere, and I've been all over the world this year, and I've been everywhere the last sort of few years, and the only time I've actually seen anything in my face.
When does it start?
Next week or 10 days, less than 10 days. It's like 8 days away or something.
Oh, all right.
Only time I seen anything was when I was.
It's kind of disappointing to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's. Yeah,
It's a shame.
I know. What's the date? 18th. Next week. Next week it starts.
Do you reckon there's a lingering fatigue from the Rugby World Cup in France?
Yeah.
Do you reckon
Well,
it's
100%.
yeah.
Something like that. There'll be something going on. I know when it starts, it'll be great.
Yeah.
Like it always is. But yeah, I've not seen much. I don't really watch much like TV anymore. Ever since COVID, I never watched the news or anything. So maybe that's why I'm not seeing anything. But even online, obviously I see all my friends posting things and the ones who have obviously qualified. But apart from that, I'm not.
The only real media
much.
I've seen about it is a lot
Instagram
on the
and stuff.
discussion that we've been having,
Yeah.
which is people are pretty despondent with how their governing organisation is treating them or measuring things.
And it's seeing, and you know what's sad is that it shouldn't
No.
be like that. It should be the opposite. It should be, we should be celebrating it.
Yeah.
We should be, everyone, we should be making the, this shouldn't be happening. We should be in the teams and we should almost should be praising British athletics, but it's not. It's the opposite.
It's recoverable. Nothing's not recoverable.
Yeah, that's true.
Whilst it's still got the lights on and there's still athletes competing for it, that change can happen. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens. You might come back all guns blazing with all the solutions after your R&R.
I hope so. I hope so.
Well, Guy, really enjoyed that. Thank you very much. Yeah. And all the best with your rest and reflection. And 143 will fall, I'm sure.
Cheers, Fergus. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.